Strong lights, a low aperture with a normal shutter speed are three things that don't exist together. If you're filming outside and you want a blurry background, you'll need an ND filter. It's not supposed to be like this though. Let's quickly see what ND filters are and when to use them. Hey everyone, I'm Dom from Wondershare UniConverter. So ND filters, neutral density filters, are very simply put sunglasses to your camera. No, not like that. But they pretty much work the same way. They decrease the amount of light that enters the camera. ND filters have values, usually ranges from 2 to 10,000, with stops like you can see this in this chart here. The lower end lets the most light in and the higher the least. There are also variable ND filters that can go from ND2 to 400 for example, so you don't have to change them all the time. This is a variable one. It's a bit broken. I just noticed that. So I don't know if I can fix it. And some higher end camera models have built-in ND filters as well. As a creator, your set of tools will very much determine the kind of content that you can create. Obviously, you can make content even with the most basic tools like a phone and nothing else. But if you want to up your content quality and the kind of content you can create, you will also need to up your set of tools both on and off your computer. For instance, with an ND filter, there are three values that you can use to control the light entering the camera. There is the ISO, which is the sensor's sensitivity to light. There's shutter speed, which is the amount of time your gate is open, where the light enters. And the aperture, which controls how much light enters the camera through the lens. For video recording, the shutter speed is kind of a fixed thing. It is ultimately defined by our frame rate because it has to be the double of it. So if your FPS is 24 or 25, you need the shutter speed to be 1/50. You can change it, but it will affect your motion blur, making your footage look weird, so don't do it. So the ISO that you can use in a camera is up to the camera itself, but usually going over 400 or 500 is rarely ever advised because of noise levels. The higher the ISO is, the more noise can be introduced into the image. And finally, we're at aperture. Aperture is determined in f-stops or t-stops. Since only high-end lenses use t-stops, now I'll only talk about f-stops. When it comes to f-stops, the lower the number is, the bigger this space is where the light enters. Take a look at this lens here. As I'm changing the aperture, it opens up and closes. If you want a nice bokeh, a shallow depth of field, or more simply put a blurry background like I have, you need to film using a low f-stop value. Not all lenses are capable of doing that. Kit lenses, for instance, don't usually go lower than f3.5, which won't give you a blurry background unless you're close to the subject and your background is very, very deep. Anyway, so you need a low f-stop like f1.4 or f.8. This is f1.4 and that's why I can have this blurry background even though the wall is literally one arm away, so it's pretty close. Okay, so what did we learn? What's the deal with f-stops? They control the amount of light entering the camera. So if we want a shallow depth of field, the lens has to let in a lot of light. Now, if a lot of light enters the camera, the only value we can change is ISO, since shutter speed is fixed at 1/50. But ISO also has a limit, and when you're shooting outside, for example, and you go full open with your lens, even with the lowest ISO value, the footage will be overexposed. Take a look. And here comes the solution. ND filters. By placing another glass, an ND filter, in front of our lens that limits the amount of light entering it in the first place, it will give us the chance to shoot in bright scenarios with a low aperture and get really nice cinematic shots. This is why you need ND filters. You just simply couldn't do this shot, for example, without one. Now, whether or not you use ND filters to process your footage, make sure that you check out the UniConverter. The UniConverter is an all-in-one multimedia toolbox. It has a very powerful converter, a compressor that can come in handy for creating proxies, for example. It's also filled with AI features to enhance video quality, split up a video automatically to scenes, and much more. So take a look at it at videoconverter.wondershare.com. Before getting an ND filter though, note that cheap ones and especially cheap variable ones can put a weird extra color layer glare on the image or these circles at certain stops. So in order to avoid that, watch a few test videos on YouTube or go for higher end models. Obviously they will be more expensive. But that is all for this quick video. I hope it was informative, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great one, guys.